Finally getting a chance to change this compression spring on the old scooter here. Hopefully it doesn't start raining on me, so I want to move kind of quick, but I want to show everyone what it takes to get this off. And not that hard at all. Right now I just got the scooter leaning against my shed. Pull the little rubber plugs out, pull off the air cleaner, and see how easy it is. Screws. I've got one missing, which is interesting. I was here last time. I mean to do this for a while. I need to re-grease the inside of the clutch assembly. A lot of times it's trying to take off in a higher gear. That's what it feels like. And I'm going to go ahead and replace the spring, re-grease everything, make it all good. My little air filter experimentation, well, going well. As you can see, it's good and dirty, like it should be. This side's good and clean, or like it should be. This thing came apart not too long ago, and I've got it still to come together pretty good. You can just pull this filter out, clean it and all. It's getting towards needing it, but it is working. It's working very well. Anyhow, I need to take the screws and all out for the air filter housing. We're going to take the little pad off here. Oops. Take the screw off that holds this on so that we can access underneath here. Because we need to take this screw right here out. CVT filter housing. By the way, I'm using a number 3 Phillips with the tip kind of worn. Technically, these all take JIS screws, screwdrivers that I don't have. Not too worried about. It's the only vehicle I have that kind of takes them. So this old popular mechanic screwdriver from Walmart, about seems like 7 decades ago, is doing just fine. Oh, take this cover off first. These are all the same screws. And everything on the towel so I don't lose them. Now, I gotta wiggle it out just a little bit. Now, of course, if something wants to come out and bake me. But yeah, filter needs to be blown out. We'll do that before it all goes back together. And now you can access the cover screws. You do this 1 or 2 times and it becomes very simple. I've got one that's kind of boogered up a bit. I put it all the way at the end here so it's easy to get to. So when it finally does get completely screwed up, it's in a place where I can drill it out or whatever. It really doesn't take much torque on these. They got a nice little rubber piece around them. Helps hold them in place too. A lot of times I'll lay this thing on its side like I did in one other video. Yeah, looks like I'm going to have to use a little bit of motivation me grab something right quick. Get it started. Boom. There we go. Piece of cake. Here it comes off. Now you can get to all the fun stuff. Cover for all this. So far we've needed number 3 and number 2 Phillips. I'm going to go ahead and get these, all these tools together. Be right back so I can tell you what they are. Alright, and we're back. Let's try to get this thing started a little better. There we go. Okay. These are all 8mm bolts all around the outside here. Use my little old 3/8 impact wrench. Pull all these off. There's that dog. It's gonna drive me nuts. Okay, now you gotta take the center one. A lot of people forget about that. It is a 12mm. Comes right out. Now, you have these right here as well. This is a good time to take them out. One of these, this one right here, is required anyway to get the cover off. I believe that's 23mm. I don't have one for whatever reason. 15/16. Boom, fits that just fine. The back one is a 19. Of course, that's 1/2" drive, so we will change to the 1/2" drive. Time to come off. Good time to check your bearings. Make sure you don't feel anything bad. It should be smooth with no movement, because these things spin pretty quick. This is just crankshaft speed. This right here through the gearing and all, and this joker right here spins way fast, incredibly fast. Put it aside for now. Bearings are still good. I'm at almost 28,000 on this. So, all is still good. Pull the clutch bell off. And okay, that's piece on this side here. Alright. On this side, pull that right off. Now, this had some wear on it when I got it, and it had the original belt in there, but it's doing really good. Not bad at all. Always inspect your belt. This is the time to inspect everything. Then pull the clutch assembly off with the belt, making sure, keep the belt going the same direction. Belt still looks good. It's not that old. I think I put it on at 20,000. It's only got about 8,000 on it. They say to change these at 12. Yeah, I still have the original for an emergency backup. The original has stretched a little, but this one right here definitely works better. But anyway, all looks good. So I'm gonna lay it down like this, so I know which way it goes in. Here's the main thing we're after. take this apart, grease it up properly, etc. What you gotta do is get that big ass nut off right there. We have a tool for that. A socket and extension I had to buy. That's yeah. I forget what the actual metric size for this was. Couldn't find one anywhere, but I found this little setup for 20 bucks total with the adapter from 3/4 to a 1/2 inch at Tractor Supply. This is 1 inch and 13/16, and it works. It's not like you're taking this on and off a lot. Be gentle with it. Good to go. I'm going to use the impact on it while I'm holding it down. I'm going to just bump this thing loose. And I mean bump. You don't want to just take it all the way off. You'll shoot all these components right into your head. Not good. There. See, it just barely moved. Okay, now you can push on it and take this off at the same time. Well, a lot of people do. That's what I'm going to do. Put your knees on it. Much as that way. Still to hold this thing down there. There we go. Just a little. It's a little bit awkward position. This is where an extra pair of hands comes in handy. You gotta get it just right. Okay. Suck. I'm gonna use our sand ball. There we go. It's not off yet, which is good. I want it to fly off. There we go. Again, make sure you know which way it goes on. It's pretty obvious. Beat upside down. Boom. There is your clutch. Compression, contra, what was the other name for this thing? Whatever, spring. Okay, it still might be good, but it doesn't matter. I went ahead and ordered a new one anyway. Age of this thing and all, and I beat the snot out of the scooter, so let's give it a new spring. It was, I think, $21 including shipping to the house. Had to wait like 7 days, but I wasn't in a big hurry. This right here is the part we're going to take apart and grease. We'll go in the shed for that. But right here, you can see, there's the shoes. Let's make sure I'm showing you this right. Yeah. You can see pitting, light cracking, etc. These things, I should go ahead change this out. I mostly commute on the highway, so it stays engaged most of the time, but it really could use a new clutch. The springs look fine. Yamaha does not sell. Yeah, see, feel a little tension right there. We're going to grease all this stuff out really good. We're going to wash all this out really good first and blow everything out with air, and then grease them up. You don't want these engaging too soon or too late. Yeah, see the springs. Now pull it all the way back down. So some new springs would do wonders, but we're going to clean it for now because this is all we have. And this is the way it is. So I'm going to wash this up. I don't think I need to video that part, but I'm going to go ahead and clean all this up, blow it out, set it aside. But this part here, that's the part I want to show you. How to get that apart, how critical it is to have the grease in the right place. I'll be back. Hopefully the lighting is good enough in here for this. I'm not able to see the camera at the same time I'm doing this. Like I said, we got this piece here. This This is the secondary sheave. You know, the spring keeps this pushed together as much as possible. Centrifugal force, you know, lets this thing slide out. It's not moving as good and smooth as it once did. So we're going to clean all the old grease and nasties out of it. Grease it up with some nice, good, new high temp grease, etc. New spring, blah, blah, blah. Now, this stops when it gets right there. It locks into place because there are 4 little, I forget what they're technically called, but little tiny little nipple things that actually keep it from moving any further underneath this cover. So, gently pry up on this part right here. Yes. Gently. And then you can twist this off. That's it. This little cover right here. Hopefully, like I said, hopefully you can see this. You can see the little thing right there. As long as that stays there, this can only rotate that far. And you can see the grease in there is good and gooey and nasty and all that junk. So, all you do is you take out those little pieces right here. They will just pop out. Of course, not for the video camera. The only thing that keeps them in place is that sheave cover. Man, that grease is gross. You want to use the proper grease. The owner's manual, the service manual will tell you all that nice, good information. I'm going to use some red high temp grease. Yeah, see, one fell out on that side. Probably just easier to do it that way. Yeah, wow, okay, we got 3 out. Where's the last one? Right there. And there they are, boom. Now, it spins freely, because there's nothing locking it in. And you keep the grease out of the belt area. I'm going to clean the whole thing anyway, but honestly, don't add to your nightmare already of having to clean this thing up. Boom. There it is. Wow. Yeah, that grease is goo. It's not working properly. You can tell it's definitely not high temp grease. I mean, here it is at 95 degrees and it's already kind of goo. Not good. Not good. So anyhow, I'm going to clean all this out. Like I said, hopefully you can see that pretty good. Clean all that out, clean all that up. We don't want no grease out here at all. That stuff will get slung around. This thing moves incredibly fast when it's in there. As you can see, this part here is pretty good. You know, I'm going to have to assume these grooves are normal-ish. They've never gotten any worse over the time I've had this thing. And you can see the bearing back in here. We're also going to put some grease all up in this area where it rides on that shaft so that it can stay good. I ride this thing at over 90 miles an hour almost every time I get on it. I beat the snot out of this scooter and it takes it. You know, there are times where it feels like it doesn't want to. I've ridden this thing when it's been 105 degrees outside on the bypass. The heat out there is incredible at times. But I got to get to work, to and from work. So we're going to pause the video, but like I said, I'm going to clean all this up. And we're going to put nice, new, good grease. In fact, let me show you the grease. I use this on my other bike as well. AutoZone brand. Yeah, this is not what the service manual says to use, so I can't just say, oh yeah, this is the stuff to use. This is the stuff I'm going to use, because I have many times in applications that get way hotter than this thing, and this stuff does fine, and it is dirt cheap, and I'm not even using it in a gun like this is set up for. And you can see how much I've used of this one. Not much at all, and it has done my Honda 3 times on the back wheel. So this stuff lasts a long time. I will return. At the risk of getting my camera dirty, go ahead and show this. I put a little bit of grease on the inside of this part here before I slid it on. One thing I wanted to mention is there is a seal on both sides of this. I don't know if you can see it at the top edge right here, and there's one on the bottom. That keeps the grease intact only in that area where it slides, so that it doesn't get all over everything else. That's a really good idea. These seals are fine, grease isn't getting out. Doesn't take that much grease anyway. Now, hopefully you can see right here where there's a hole lined up where I can put one of the pins in. Because once you get one lined up and in, the rest will as well, because, well, you gotta line it up just right. Yeah, I can't see it on the camera just yet, but hold on. There we go. There it is in place. And of course, go around and do all the rest of it. Let's make sure you can see that hole. Where's the... Yeah, there it is. Okay, you see the hole right there. That's where you want to put the pins. And you can see a little bit of grease around the edge. Doesn't take a whole lot of grease, because if you put too much, it's going to squish out anyway when you put that sleeve on. When you put the outer part of the sheave on. I keep forgetting all these technical names. But anyway, slide all these in. Of course, I wiped everything down really good. Get all that old goo out of there. Now that all four of them are in, you can see it's going to move up and down just like I did before. Okay, nice and simple. Don't want to pack it with so much grease that it can't move easily. And double check to make sure you don't get any grease in where the belt's going to sit. So when I get completely done, I'm going to wipe that out really good. Some brake parts cleaner will wash anything out. Before I put this piece right here on, take a look right here at the two little rubber O-rings. Make sure those are intact as well, because that also, sweat on the glasses, that also keeps the grease what's inside here. As you saw when I took it apart, there wasn't grease anywhere. Good to go. So take your time, go slow with it, and all will be well. I'm just going to put some outside here, inside the holes a little bit. Boom. That and a new spring and centripetal force makes all this stuff work. It doesn't have to slide very far. Just up and down that groove. And this right here does not take much. Yeah, it looks like it's a little caked in here. It'll all shift around underneath this thing and even itself out. Believe me, this thing spins pretty fast. Eesh, I mean, I can imagine what the actual RPM of it is. Probably like the speed of a turbocharger or something. But anyhow, let's take that, slide this on nice and gently, like, oh, there we go, all the way down to the bottom. And of course, a little bit of grease is going to come out right there. No big deal. I'm going to go around and clean all that up. I'm going to keep the grease nearby anyway for when I put this back on. I'm going to grease that roller bearing right there. And there's a bearing all the way at the top here, but it's a sealed bearing, which is, I'm glad they did that, because it's kind of hard to get to put grease in it properly anyway. So take the edge of your towel and go around the seal here, getting all the junk out, get it all cleaned up. The worst thing that could happen here is that you get grease on the belt. Now, this is high temp grease. It ain't going anywhere. It's going to sling around. It's going to stick to something. It's going to get all gooey. And mixing with all that junk in there is going to cause the belt to slip, which is really bad. Bad stuff will happen. You'll notice it. Cats and dogs living together, end times. It's going to be terrible. And on the threads here, where that big bolt goes, it's not as critical, but all this stuff does spin around. Nice thing about grease is it also cleans a little, not like oil does, etc. And I am stepping on something that's air tank down there. Yeah, it's pretty cool. You gotta love eBay. I found parts for an old air tank. It fell apart. I was thinking, man, I'm just gonna have to buy a new one. A new one is $50 for a 7-gallon tank. New parts kit was $15 shipped to the house, and it's better than the original. Holds air for a month at 90 pounds. Which is pretty cool when you're not wanting to pull out the air hose to get all the way over to your riding lawnmower front wheels, which are leaking, etc. Anyhow, you get the idea here. Just want to show that it was pretty simple. Doesn't take much grease. A little bit goes a long way. And it's okay to check it every time you open it up. You can look in there and see. So I've already put a little bit of grease in there just to kind of coat the edge of the roller bearings, and I'm going to put some more in right before I put it on that shaft, and then just wipe that down before I put the nut and everything on. So we're going to go ahead and put this together. I'm going to show you what the primary sheave, or the Variator, that most people call it, looks like. I'll be right back. Oh, and just to show, here's the new spring. It is an OEM Yamaha part, and there it is. Nothing exciting about it. It's new. I'm glad they still make parts for these things. There it is. Like I said, it might not make much difference. You know, going by the old finger gauge here, feels about the same as the old one. Doesn't matter. I will know that this is not part of it, and for a little bit of money it was. You know, this has been a very inexpensive scooter to own. I commute 50 miles a day with it for work when I can. It's been raining like crazy lately, but I wanted to get this done so that even if it rains tomorrow, as long as it ain't raining to work, it's okay raining home. I got rain gear, and this is the most waterproof bike ever. Water gets in nothing, either glove box, under the seat, etc. But anyhow, as far as putting this back together, it's just the opposite of what I did before. I'm a little pressed for time. The sky's looking pretty wicked out there, so I'll put this on off camera. Let me get that primary sheave in. Just make sure when you put the big nut on holding this assembly together, you somehow torque it to the correct you know, torque value, which I want to say it was something like 45 or 60 foot-pounds comes to mind. I had the service manual in the house. I'm going to use my impact wrench. I know that's another thing you're not supposed to do. I'm going to use it. That's what I did last time. The way this thing spins in there and the way that tightens up, it doesn't spin the same direction for it to loosen up. So they did that for a reason as well. I'm just going to put it on good and snugly tight. We're going to call it even. So I'll be right back. One other thing before I put this back together. I went ahead and cleaned this up a bit. You know, I got most of the nasties out of there. It's going to get all dusty again, but like I said, for now, I'm going to take the sandpaper over there and just lightly scuff this up to help it be a little nicer when it engages. It's just like brake shoes. There's a guy on eBay and on Craigslist, I believe, that advertises in this area that they reline these using Kevlar. Well, that'd be great and all, but considering, you know, I might want to tune this a little, I'll probably end up getting that Majesty clutch set up. If anybody wants to leave a comment about that, you know, it's fine with me. I figure I get the Majesty clutch assembly and the bell. Keep it a match set. It's just under $200 with shipping, I think, and that's not too much. Plus, Majesty also makes different springs. Yamaha doesn't sell these springs individually. They want to sell you the whole assembly for $200 and change. No. What I also did is I lightly oiled the end of the shaft here where the clutch shoe actually pivots on this. And when I say lightly oil, I'm talking like a couple drops. Let it move around. Pull these out. You can use a screwdriver to move this assembly around. That's about as far as it moves anyway. And then wipe the excess off. That's it. That is it. So I'm going to put this all back together now. Got the primary out. I'm hoping this video is good enough for you guys. I promise you a better one. You know, I'm not super video man here, but anyway, here's this. Gently pull it off. I had Dr. Pulley's sliders and stuff in here. I went back to the stock rollers. The sliders, they kept moving. They would rotate around. When I first had them in, man, they were awesome. It had better takeoff because it allowed it to act like a much lower gear. And on the highway, you know, when it finally evened out, it was a slightly higher gear. So you had great takeoff, and you know, most of the time I spend on this thing is over 55 miles an hour. So that's the important part to me. And every once in a while, though, I started to get that crazy takeoff going, and it just became a real pain in the butt. And I just eventually just took them out and I put these back in, and these work better than I ever remember them working. But anyhow, just looking here, I cleaned it not too long ago. Still in pretty good shape. Yeah, you know, you get some dirt and stuff sticks with age. I'm going to lightly lube this piece here. Actually, it's probably still pretty good from last time. Huh, I'll just leave that alone. Yeah. Make sure you have all these parts on correctly. One thing going the wrong direction will mess you all up, even if it lets you get it all back together. Most of the time it won't. Yeah, here we go. A little bit of oil grease right there. Anyhow, gonna make sure you get these. There we go. Slide it in. Turn it back over the right way. And boom, yeah, not a whole lot to this part here. Thought about experimenting with different weights and all that, but for right now I'm just leaving it alone. These are 15 gram. Thought about trying a 13 just to see if 2 grams difference is drastic. And if it is, then I could just have them up. Half 13, half 15. As long as you alternate them throughout the Variator, it'll work just fine as if it was a 14. So I just haven't done that yet. But anyhow, put this on, and I'll show you what it looks like one more time before I button it all up. Okay, here it is with everything just sitting there. Slid the clutch assembly back in. You can see the grease and all comes out to here. No big deal. Lets me know it's all where it needs to be. So, all wipes off real nice, etc. The interesting part here is put this belt on. You have to get it over this. I hope you can see this well. This tiny little lip right here. You can see it's over this shaft, but you got to get it over the edge of this so that the two halves will actually go all the way together. If you don't, you're gonna catch hell trying to get this thing done. A lot of times you can just squeeze the belt right here. The secondary gives just a little, just enough to get it on there. Requires sometimes a little extra motivation. But usually I got this thing laying on its side where it's a little easier to do this kind of stuff. I didn't go for that this time so I could show it easier with the camera. Trusty handy dandy Harbor Freight screwdriver here. Got it. Squeeze this down a little at the same time. And then boom. There it goes. Yep. Boom. There it is. Woo. Yep. Oh yeah, that belt's still good and tight. The old one, wouldn't do all that. And then you just ever so slightly take the grease off the threads here. Just gently put this on so as not to move anything. Ta-da! When you tighten the belt up, when you tighten the nut up, and push everything into place. Piece of cake. Shoo. Of course, that's when you go to put the case on, the bearing and all sits right on there and snugs it all up. So, as they say in instruction manuals, installation is reversal of removal. But that's pretty much it. There's not much to this. So now I got new spring in, new grease, cleaned it up, deglazed the shoes a little. Whoever came up with that idea for those sanding blocks is genius. I hope he got paid well for that because he deserves it. Can't think of anything else. I need to clean that air filter out. Probably getting another 1,000 miles or so on it. The other one just replaced not too long ago. So anyhow, can't think of anything else. You got any questions, leave them in the comments, and ride safe out there. Went out for a test ride, which I should have said I was going to do. Always check your work and make sure everything's good. It is butter smooth now, like it should be. And yeah, it fits up here in the shed. But it's smooth again for now, until that clutch assembly gets replaced, which isn't going to be in the foreseeable future. If I lived in town, I had to constantly stop and go. It'd be a bit different, but I don't know. I'll eventually get it. Right now, it works good again. You floor it right off the line. It jumps straight to $5 grand like it should, and you take off smartly. You know, it's got what, almost 34 horsepower, I think, and plenty of torque. So it's back. Ye old Majesty, and I need a bigger shed. I got junk everywhere. But anyhow, that video is definitely better than the last one. I'm not a video expert person by any means, but I did say I would make one, and I did. And I hope that helps someone. Okay, y'all ride safe.